Hi there, LinkedIn family. Jonathan here from Some Talented People. And this is the first episode of 4 about how to use space. And by that, we mean space both physically, virtually, metaphorically, and psychologically. And we're joined in these discussions by Neil Jones, Jane Tyson, and Guy Danes. And they each have perspectives on this, which should be very exciting to hear about. So today's episode is to introduce to you our personal reflections on the space around us. And then coming up tomorrow, we're going to look at space in COVID times. So you enjoy this, and please make comments and suggestions in the comments area below the videos, because we want to get lots and lots of feedback from you about how you experience space. Okay, take care. So Niall.
Yeah, so the way that I see spaces myself, the reason that I'm so fascinated by them is, I think one of the first things is that there's all these different ways that we can use this amazing space between us. One of the most distinctive things is whether we're going into a space, whether it's facilitated or it's unfacilitated. So like just the random gathering of people, or whether there's some structure to it, some decided structure, because then what can happen is that sometimes you have the sense of a good vibe that develops as a result of some structured approach, or that may happen at random, or there may be a complete absence of that. And so all that combination really fascinates me. You can think about the idea that there's one-to-one spaces which can be so different from a space of 3 people, 5 people, 10 people. And what happens in these spaces obviously is super important, right? I mean, they can be used in so many different ways, which I know we're going to talk about at a future point. You know, I think a lot of the space time that we have is very kind of one to many, and I think that is kind of very one-dimensional. So one of the reasons I'm so invested in how we can use spaces better is because there's so many different ways you can use it, which is different from a kind of one to many or one large voice and everyone else listening kind of space. So that's kind of my kind of initial kind of cut on why I'm so passionate about spaces and what it means to me.
Groovy. Guy, what's your perspective?
Yeah, here's my take on it at a personal level. I've found over the years, maybe it's the grey hair, to actually unclutter and to try and unclutter all the sort of materialistic things, the physical things around you. And as you may see, I've got some memorabilia behind me, which a long time ago used to be filled with business books. Now those business books are in a separate area where I go in and pull a book if I need it. And behind me is memorabilia of happy memories. So it's all about helping one's mindset. And as my USA brothers say, what's under the hood? You know, you've got to have some clarity, etc. And to me, to have clarity, it's uncluttering your surroundings. And then you need to own your own space where you can actually go and chill and find some clarity of thinking, because I think not only over the past 8 months, but previously, a lot of people's mind is cluttered because there's just so much going on around them and they don't find time out.
That's, very much so. Jane, what's your perspectives?
On space. So I'm in my space here. I'm shut the door. My teenagers are out there. You know, I mean, you're in my space. It's like I'm just having a space time with you now. As a trained teacher, I've always held space for kids, and I do believe in holding space for them. Life is quite contrived, curriculums are quite intense, and over the years I've got more I've got grayer, but also long in the tooth about it, and I feel now that I'm at a stage where I want it to be a space of nothing for them to create in, and I think to reach that level of confidence with teaching, I think when you know things inside out, that you can actually intuitively work in that space. And you know, there are moments where, you know, allowing boredom to set in and like for that creativity to flow from the nothing. So space for me is around taking away expectations and just seeing what happens when you come together, and the magic lies not always from that moment. You don't always know from that moment of being together what's going to happen. It's often later. So yeah, I'm all about creative spaces.
I tell you what, oh dear, we've talked before, but I've never really heard that aspect of you, and I've got some amazing TED Talks I'm going to send you. They're so exciting, because what you talk about, this creativity being allowed to happen, it's so critical to the future of our species as far as I'm concerned. So my personal view on space is kind of linked to Guy's, in that Guy described how he clears his physical space and he organizes his space so that you can move from one to another in a transition. And I think a lot of people working from home have had this problem whereby they've got kids, they've got work, they've got cooking, they've got all these things to do, and therefore they can't switch off and on effectively, I think is the best interpretation. I have an experience of being having a brain injury, number of strokes, and I had to rebuild my consciousness from nothing. So I was very I watched it very closely, and what I've done is I have chose to delete whole conversations and blocks of alleged reality in order to focus my brain to make my body function. So I very much am conscious of mental space, and we'll do some tips on that later on. Okay, that's the end of the episode. Everyone want to wave?
Yeah.
Right, cool. So a fantastic discussion going on there. We're back tomorrow, where we're going to look at how space has been impacted with COVID-19, COVID-20, probably by the time you see this. Okay, take care. I'll see you again.